There have been some analysis as to the level that the British royalty got involved in the transatlantic slave trade. Looking at the case of the Royal African Company, some lights can be shed towards these analysis. The transatlantic slave trade, though very unfortunate, but was very lucrative to the beneficiaries. The beneficiaries were in layers, and these layers were, the first layer I have to look at is the African dealers. We have the European dealers. We have the middlemen between European dealers and the plantation owners. We also have the plantation owners that utilized the labor provided by these slaves. We as well have some political structures or some governments, both conventional political structure and monarchy structures, that we utilized and benefited through the transatlantic slave trade. The lucrative nature of this unfortunate trade was utilized by the British monarchy that was believed to have participated in the trade. The British royalty or the British royal family's link to the transatlantic slave trade dates back to the 16th century. In 1562, John Hawkins, in his commercial voyage that was approved by Elizabeth I, included enslaved Africans in his cargo. These enslaved Africans were traded for goods like ginger and sugar. The second voyage of John Hawkins in 1564 was funded by Elizabeth I. Toby Thomas, in his article at the Guardian Online, stated that in 1660, the Royal African Company was established by the Duke of York, who later became James II, with involvement from his brother Charles II. According to the Slave Voyages website, between 1672 and 1731, the Royal African Company was prolific within the slave trade. The company transported more than 187,000 slaves from Africa to the English colonies in North, Central, and South America. Many of the enslaved Africans Africans transported by the Royal African Company were branded DY, which stood for Duke of York. Many of the enslaved Africans transported by the Royal African Company were branded DY, which stood for the Duke of York. It is believed that between 1690 to 1807, an estimated 6 million enslaved Africans were transported from West Africa to the Americas on British or Anglo-American ships. The slave trade was protected effectively by the royal family and parliament. Toby Thomas went ahead to state that it is difficult to estimate just how much of the current royal family's wealth is owed to slavery, but it is understood that the profit of slave trade funded the treasury and as well British industries, buildings, railways, roads, and parks. Sarah Pruitt, in his write-up in history.com, made some write-ups about the Royal African Company. She stated that thousands of slaves arrived in the New World with the company's initial branded on their chests. The Royal African Company continued to engage in slave trade until 1731, when it switched to trafficking of gold dusts and ivory. In 1752, British Parliament dissolved the Royal African Company and transferred all its assets to the Company of Merchant Trading to Africa. Please, if you're watching us for the very first time, subscribe to our channel and click on the notification icon so that anytime we drop a new content, you'll be one of the earliest persons to be notified. Thanks for being part of this channel.